I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Kevin Morrow stood in the corner of his in-laws' living room, a cup of lukewarm coffee clutched in his hand. The artificial pine scent from the oversized Christmas tree couldn't mask the underlying smell of pretension that always permeated the Watterson home. He watched his daughter Wren, her small frame nearly disappearing into the plush armchair as she waited patiently for her turn to open gifts. "Next is Piper," announced Inez Watterson, her voice carrying the practiced enthusiasm of a shopping network host. Kevin observed his niece tear into the professionally wrapped package with a confidence born of expectation. Piper's squeals filled the room as she pulled out a designer outfit that probably cost more than Kevin's weekly grocery budget. "It's exactly what I wanted." Piper twirled, holding the clothes against her body. Lainey, Piper's mother and Kevin's sister-in-law, beamed with performative pride. "Only the best for our little princess." Her eyes flicked toward Kevin and Wren, the smile never reaching her eyes. "And now," Merle Watterson announced with noticeably less enthusiasm, "something for little Wren." Kevin felt his jaw tighten as Wren slid off her chair and approached her grandfather with hopeful eyes. She carefully took the shopping bag, not even wrapped, and peered inside. The room fell silent as Wren pulled out a stack of clothes. Even from across the room, Kevin could see the faded colors, the slight fraying at the edges. Hand-me-downs. Not even new ones, these looked worn, discarded. "New clothes are a luxury, dear," Inez said with a tinkling laugh that sliced through the quiet. "These will suit you just fine." Merle snorted. "Those suit her better anyway. Not like she needs fancy things." Kevin's fingers tightened around his coffee cup, the ceramic hot against his skin. He glanced at his wife Ariel, seeking some sign of maternal outrage, but found only the ghost of a smirk playing on her lips. Wren lifted her gaze, her eyes meeting Kevin's across the room. In that moment, he saw something in his daughter that broke his heart, not disappointment, but resignation. As if, at 10 years old, she already understood her place in this family's hierarchy. "Thank you," Wren said softly, hugging the faded fabric to her chest. "I like them." Kevin set his cup down carefully, afraid he might crush it in his grip. His daughter shouldn't have to pretend. She shouldn't have to be grateful for scraps while her cousin paraded in luxury. Derek, Lainey's husband, looked uncomfortable but said nothing. The kind man never stood up to his wife or in-laws, a trait Kevin had once considered diplomatic but now saw as weakness. "Who's ready for more presents?" Ariel chirped, elegant in her cashmere sweater that Kevin had paid for, but received no credit for giving as the gift opening continued. Kevin remained in his corner, silent but watchful. His mind wasn't on the presents anymore. It was on the notes he'd been keeping, the evidence he'd been gathering, on the plan that had been forming since the moment his daughter had whispered to him about seeing a strange man leaving their house 2 months ago. Christmas was about family, after all, and Kevin was about to give his family exactly what they deserved. Kevin noticed the changes in Ariel gradually, like ice forming on a lake, imperceptible until suddenly you realized you could no longer see the water beneath. He sat at the kitchen table, laptop open but forgotten as he watched Ariel apply lipstick in the hallway mirror. This was the 3rd time this week she was going shopping after dinner. "Don't wait up," she called over her shoulder, not even bothering to look at him. "I might meet the girls for drinks after." The door closed before Kevin could respond. He didn't need to ask which girls. There's a rotating cast of friends Ariel mentioned, but whom he'd never met. Convenient excuses that had seemed innocent enough until he started paying attention. The house fell silent except for the soft padding of socks on hardwood as Wren made her way downstairs. "Dad," her voice was small, hesitant. Kevin closed his laptop. "Hey, kiddo. Thought you were reading before bed." Wren twisted her fingers together, a habit she'd developed in the past year. But what is it, Wren?" Kevin pushed out a chair for her. She sat down, eyes fixed on the table. "I saw something yesterday when you were working late." Kevin waited, giving her space to find her words. "A man came to the house." Wren's voice dropped to nearly a whisper. "He and Mom were laughing a lot. Then they went upstairs for a while." The information settled in Kevin's stomach like a stone. He'd suspected, of course. The late nights, The new lingerie he never saw her wear, the emotional distance that had grown between them. But suspicion was different from confirmation, especially from the lips of his daughter. What did he look like? Kevin asked, keeping his voice neutral. Tall, dark hair. Ren frowned. He had a watch that beeped every hour. I heard it 3 times. Kevin nodded slowly. Did Mom know you saw him? Ren shook her head. I stayed in my room, but I heard them on the stairs when he was leaving. Kevin reached across the table and took his daughter's hand. Thank you for telling me, Ren. You didn't do anything wrong. Are you mad? Her eyes finally met his. Worry etched across her face. Not at you, Kevin assured her. Never at you. After tucking Ren into bed, Kevin went to his home office and opened a new document on his computer. At the top, he typed evidence and began his first entry. November 15th. Ren reports unknown man in house while I was working late. Approximates 7 to 10 p.m. Ariel claimed to be watching movies at home. It was the first note of many. Kevin wasn't a man who acted on impulse or emotion. He was methodical, patient. He would gather information, build his case, and when the time came, he would make decisions based on facts, not feelings. The next morning, he ordered the first of several surveillance cameras. Another round? Kevin asked, signaling the bartender before Derek could answer. The neighborhood bar was quiet on a Tuesday night, just a few regulars watching a basketball game on the mounted TVs, perfect for the conversation Kevin needed to have. Sure, but this is my last one, Derek said, checking his phone. Lainey expects me home by 10. Kevin nodded, sliding the fresh beer toward his brother-in-law. Appreciate you making time. Been wanting to catch up, just as guys. Derek smiled, his open face reflecting genuine pleasure at the invitation. Kevin had always liked Derek, a decent man who ran a small landscaping business, worked hard, and seemed devoted to his family. It made what Kevin had discovered all the more difficult. How's business? Kevin asked. Slow season now, but we've got contracts lined up for spring. Lainey's been amazing, handling all the bookkeeping and client calls. Derek's face softened when he mentioned his wife. I got lucky with her, you know. Smart, beautiful, and she still chooses to be with me every day. Kevin took a long sip of his beer. You two seem solid. 12 years next month, Derek said proudly. Not always easy, but we make it work. Ever feel like you don't really know someone? Kevin asked, his tone casual, but his eyes watchful. Like there's a part of them they keep hidden? Derek's brow furrowed slightly. What do you mean? Just thinking out loud, Kevin shrugged. Marriage is complicated. People are complicated. I guess everyone has their secrets, Derek conceded. But Lainey? She's loyal to a fault. Wears her heart on her sleeve. Kevin nodded, concealing the twist of pity in his gut. You're a lucky man. What about you and Ariel? You guys doing okay? Derek's question was innocent enough. We're fine, Kevin lied smoothly. Just busy, you know how it is. As they talked about safer topics, sports, work, plans for the holidays, Kevin felt the weight of what he knew and what he still needed to learn. The trap was set, the pieces moving into place. He just needed patience and precision. Later that night, as Kevin drove home, he called his old college friend Marcus, now a lab technician. Yeah, Marcus answered. It's Kevin. I need that favor we talked about. The DNA test. You sure about this, man? Kevin watched the traffic light turn red, then green. Completely sure. I'll get you the samples by Friday. The pieces were falling into place. Kevin had always been good at chess, thinking several moves ahead. This game would be no different. The first camera went in the bedroom, disguised as a phone charger. The second, in his home office, looked like a desk clock. Kevin installed both while Ariel was at her yoga class, the one he now knew she never attended. The voice recorders in her car were even simpler. One under the driver's seat, another in the glove compartment. Kevin wasn't proud of these measures, but he needed evidence. Not just for his own peace of mind, but for what would come after. For Ren's future. The footage came quickly. On day 3, while Kevin was supposedly at a work conference, but actually in a hotel 20 minutes from home, he watched the live feed on his laptop as Ariel brought a man into their house. Kevin recognized him immediately. Jason Moore, a client from Ariel's real estate office. Tall, dark-haired, expensive watch. The man Ren had described. Kevin sat motionless as they moved through the house, Ariel laughing at something Jason said, her hand lingering on his arm. They took wine glasses from the cabinet the crystal set Kevin had given her for their anniversary and disappeared upstairs, the bedroom camera activated. Kevin watched as his wife led another man to their bed, as they undressed each other with practiced familiarity. This wasn't their first time. Kevin didn't feel rage or heartbreak, just a cold certainty that solidified his resolve. He forced himself to watch for a few more moments, enough to confirm what he already knew, then closed the laptop. The recordings would continue automatically, evidence accumulating in the secure cloud storage he'd set up. That night, he called his lawyer. "I need a divorce attorney," Kevin said when Frank answered. "Someone ruthless." "That bad, huh?" Frank's voice was sympathetic. "Worse," Kevin replied. "And I need to protect my daughter." "I know someone. Best in the business, but not cheap." "Money isn't an issue," Kevin said. "Set up a meeting for tomorrow." 2 days later, Kevin sat across from Catherine Walsh, divorce attorney, showing her selected clips from his surveillance. "This is definitely enough for fault-based divorce," she said, taking notes. "But are you sure about the custody approach? Courts tend to favor mothers unless there's clear evidence of harm to the child." "Keep watching," Kevin said, queuing up another clip. This one showed Ariel and Jason in the kitchen after their bedroom activities. Ariel poured more wine, leaning against the counter. "What about your husband?" Jason asked on screen. Ariel laughed. "Kevin? He's clueless. Too busy with work and that boring kid of his." "Your daughter seems sweet, though," Jason said, sipping his wine. "Ren's not like me," Ariel replied, her tone dismissive. "No ambition, no spark. Just like her father, dull, dependable. I should have known what I was getting when I married him." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "There's more, much more," Kevin confirmed. "She brings men to our home when Ren is there. She leaves Ren alone to meet them. And there's evidence of emotional neglect." Catherine nodded slowly. "This changes things. I'll need all the footage, all the recordings. We'll build a case for full custody." As Kevin left her office, his phone buzzed with a notification from one of his surveillance cameras. Ariel was home early, going through his desk drawers. He watched her for a moment on the small screen, then put his phone away. Let her search. She wouldn't find anything. Kevin had already moved all important documents to a safe deposit box, including the new trust documents for Ren. The storm was gathering, but Kevin was well prepared. Kevin hadn't planned to investigate Laney. His focus had been entirely on Ariel and protecting Ren. But life had a way of revealing patterns once you started looking for them. He was parked outside Ren's school, early for pickup as usual, when he spotted Laney's distinctive SUV pulling into the lot. School didn't dismiss for another 20 minutes, unusual for Laney, who typically arrived just as the bell rang. Kevin watched as she parked and a man emerged from the passenger side. Not Derek. This man was younger, more athletic, with the confident stride of someone used to attention. From his vantage point, Kevin could see them clearly. Their goodbye wasn't casual. Laney leaned across the console, the kiss lingering beyond friendship. The man's hand rested on her thigh, intimate and possessive. As the man walked away, Kevin quickly snapped several photos with his phone. A quick search on social media later identified him as Jace Foreman, personal trainer at the gym where Laney claimed to spend her mornings getting back in shape. It shouldn't have surprised him. The sisters had always been similar, privileged, entitled, used to getting what they wanted without consequence. But Kevin found himself angry on Derek's behalf. The man was hardworking, honest, devoted to his family. He didn't deserve this betrayal. That weekend, while having coffee with a mutual friend, Kevin casually asked about Piper. "She's growing up so fast," he commented. "Started to look less like Derek and more like Laney every day." Their friend hesitated. "You think?" "I've always thought Piper looked more like Laney's old boyfriend from college. Remember that guy? The tennis instructor?" Kevin felt the pieces click into place. Piper was 11. Derek and Laney had been married 12 years. The timing was suspicious at best. IT took 2 weeks and a significant favor for Marcus at the lab, but Kevin finally had the results in his hand. The paternity test was conclusive. Derek had a 0% chance of being Piper's biological father. Kevin sat in his car outside the lab, the manila envelope on the passenger seat beside him. He hadn't planned on this additional revelation, this collateral damage in his pursuit of justice. But the Watterson sisters had built a house of lies, and it was about to collapse. He thought of Piper innocent in all this, just like Wren. The fallout would hurt her. But living a lie couldn't be better. Derek deserved the truth, and eventually, so did Piper. Kevin started the car and headed for the bank. He needed to add these documents to his growing file of evidence. Christmas was approaching, and he wanted everything in place for the reckoning to come. These documents are in order, Mr. Morrow. The divorce attorney slid the papers across her desk. Once filed, your wife will be served within 3 business days. Kevin signed where indicated. But don't file until I give the word. I want the timing to be right. Catherine nodded. And the financial arrangements? Already done, Kevin confirmed. Joint accounts emptied. Assets secured in the trust for Wren. My paychecks now go to a new account only in my name. She'll fight this, you know, Catherine warned. Once she realizes what's happening, let her. Kevin's voice was calm, determined. I have evidence of infidelity, emotional abuse toward our daughter, and financial irresponsibility. She can fight, but she won't win. As Kevin left the law office, he felt a strange lightness. For months, he'd carried the weight of betrayal, gathering evidence, making plans. Now the machinery was in motion. Unstoppable, he'd arranged to meet Derek at a different bar this time, farther from their neighborhoods. No chance of running into anyone they knew. Derek was already there when Kevin arrived, nursing a beer, his expression troubled. Everything okay? Kevin asked as he sat down. Derek shrugged. Just business stuff. Lainey thinks we should expand, hire more crew. It's a big risk. And you don't agree? I don't know. Derek sighed. She's usually right about this stuff. Has a good head for business, you know? But something feels off about this deal. Kevin ordered a whiskey, neat. Trust your instincts, Derek. They talked about neutral topics for a while: sports, home repairs, plans for the holidays. Kevin waited until Derek was halfway through his second beer before setting the manila envelope on the table between them. What's this? Derek asked. I think you deserve the truth, Kevin said quietly. Derek stared at the envelope, not reaching for it. About what? About your wife. About your family. Kevin met his gaze steadily. Things I discovered by accident, but now can't unknow. Things you should know, too. Derek's hand trembled slightly as he finally pulled the envelope closer. Is this some kind of joke? I wish it was. Kevin's voice was gentle but firm as Derek opened the envelope and began to look through its contents. Kevin watched the emotions play across his face: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, a devastating understanding. The photos of Lainey with Jace. Screenshots of text messages Kevin had recovered from Lainey's phone cloud backup, explicit, mocking messages about Derek, about their marriage. And finally, the paternity report, clinical and irrefutable. This can't be right, Derek whispered, his face ashen. Piper is my daughter. She has to be. I'm sorry, Derek. Truly. Kevin meant it. I wouldn't have shown you this if I wasn't certain. Derek stared at the papers, then abruptly stood up and rushed to the bathroom. Kevin could hear him retching even from their table. When he returned minutes later, his eyes were red, his face haggard. Why? Derek asked, sinking back into his chair. Why would you look into this? Why would you do this to me? Kevin took a deep breath. Because Ariel is doing the same thing to me. Because the Watterson sisters think they can treat people like accessories, like stepping stones. Because your daughter and mine deserve better. Derek's eyes widened. Ariel, too? Kevin nodded. I've been gathering evidence for months. Planning to file for divorce. Seek full custody of Wren. What are you going to do? Derek asked. I'm going to make them face the truth. Kevin's voice hardened. At Christmas dinner, in front of everyone. I wanted you to know beforehand, to have a choice. You can confront Lainey privately, or you can stand with me when I expose everything. Derek was silent for a long moment, staring into his beer. Piper, he finally said, his voice breaking. She's still my daughter. I raised her. I love her. And that matters, Kevin agreed. Biology doesn't make a father. Love does. But you deserve to know the truth. I need time to think, Derek said. It's too much. Take all the time you need, Kevin replied. But know this: I'm not walking away quietly. Not anymore. As Derek gathered the papers with shaking hands, Kevin felt the power shift between them, between all of them. For too long, the Watterson family had dictated terms, had taken without giving, had lied without consequence. That was about to change. Christmas dinner at the Watterson home was a choreographed affair, each movement as practiced as a ballet. Inez presided over the table like a queen, Merle at the head with his carving knife poised over the roast. Ariel and Lainey flanked their mother, mirror images of practiced charm. Derek sat quietly beside his wife, his eyes meeting Kevin's occasionally, an unspoken agreement passing between them. Wren and Piper had been seated at the small children's table in the corner, despite both being old enough to join the adults. Another reminder of their place in the family hierarchy. Wine, Kevin, Merle offered, holding up the bottle. Not yet, Kevin replied, his voice steady. I'd like to make a toast first, if that's all right. Inez looked surprised. Kevin rarely spoke at these gatherings unless directly addressed. Well, I suppose that would be fine. Kevin stood, his water glass in hand. He looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. Merle's impatient, Inez is curious, Lainey's suspicious, Ariel's bored. Only Derek knew what was coming. To family, Kevin began, his voice carrying in the dining room. To truth, and to what we give our children. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out two small, wrapped boxes, identical except for the name tags. He placed them in front of Ariel and Lainey. A little something to show how much I value transparency, Kevin said. Ariel raised an eyebrow. You're giving us presents at the dinner table? That's not the tradition, Kevin. Some traditions need updating, Kevin replied. Open them. Lainey glanced at her sister, then shrugged and tore open the wrapping. Ariel followed suit. Inside each box was a USB drive, unmarked and innocent-looking. What's this? Lainey asked, turning the drive in her fingers. The truth, Kevin said simply. He pulled out his laptop, opened it, and placed it at the center of the table. Let's have a look, shall we? Before either sister could object, Kevin took the USB from Ariel's hand and plugged it in. A few keystrokes later, the screen came to life. The video was crystal clear. Ariel in their bedroom with Jason Moore. The audio captured every word, every sound. Your husband is such a fool. Jason's voice came through the speakers. He has no idea. Kevin? Please. Ariel scoffed on screen. He's too busy with work and that kid of his. He probably wouldn't notice if I left for a week. Inez gasped. Merle's knife clattered to his plate. Turn that off. Ariel shrieked, lunging for the laptop. Kevin held up a hand. There's more. He switched the USB for Lainey's. The screen changed to show Lainey and Jace Foreman in his car, kissing passionately. Then shifted to screenshots of text messages. Lainey, Derek is clueless as usual. Told him I was helping Mom when I was with you. Jace, what about Piper? Does she know you're sneaking around? Lainey, she's like her dad, too trusting for her own good. Besides, it's not like he's her real father anyway. The room fell silent. Derek stood slowly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You knew. Lainey whispered, her face white. You knew this whole time. I found out, Derek said quietly. Kevin showed me the paternity test. Piper, who had moved closer to watch the commotion, froze. What paternity test? Dad. Merle rose from his chair, face purple with rage. Turn that filth off. How dare you bring this into my home? Kevin met his gaze without flinching. I warned you all. I warned you that one day the truth would come out. You recorded me. Ariel hissed, her eyes narrowed to slits. You spied on me in our home that I paid for. Kevin corrected. Where you brought other men. Where you neglected our daughter while you pursued your affairs. Inez dropped her wine glass, red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. This is preposterous. My daughters would never. Your daughters have been living double lives for years. Kevin cut her off. Lying to their husbands, neglecting their children, behaving like entitled teenagers instead of grown women. Lainey turned to Derek, reaching for his hand. I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Derek stepped back from her touch. It's exactly what it looks like. The texts, the videos. The DNA test. His voice broke. Piper isn't mine. Piper gasped, tears filling her eyes. What? Dad, what does that mean? It means your mother has been lying to all of us, Derek said, his voice gentle despite his pain. But it doesn't change how I feel about you, Piper. I'm still your dad in every way that matters. This is ridiculous. Lainey shouted, standing now. You can't possibly believe. Stop lying. Kevin's voice cut through the room like a blade. The evidence is irrefutable. The DNA doesn't lie. The videos don't lie. He turned to Ariel, who stood trembling with rage. I filed for divorce. You've been served, the papers are in your purse. I replaced your lipstick with them this morning. Full custody of Ren, division of assets is outlined. My lawyer expects your response in 10 days. Ariel lunged at him, nails aimed for his face. You bastard. You can't do this to me. Kevin caught her wrist mid-air, his grip firm, but not cruel. Ren deserves better than a liar for a mother. A woman who calls her boring and dull to her lovers. Who gives away her clothes to make room for new purchases, but lets her daughter receive worn hand-me-downs. He released Ariel's wrist and stepped back. It's already done. Chaos erupted in the dining room. Ariel screamed obscenities, Lainey sobbed, and Inez attempted to regain control by sheer volume. Merle had gone silent, his face ashen, his thoughts unreadable. Kevin moved through the storm to Ren's side. Get your coats, sweetheart. We're leaving. Ren nodded, her eyes wide but dry. As they headed for the door, Inez intercepted them. You can't just leave after dropping this bomb, she hissed. This is Christmas dinner, a dinner where my daughter was once again treated as an afterthought, Kevin replied calmly. Your daughter's deceptions were finally exposed. I think we're done here. Inez grabbed his arm. You'll regret this, Kevin. I'll make sure Ariel takes you for everything you have. You'll lose your house, your money, even Ren. Kevin smiled thinly. Your opinion means about as much to me as the gift you gave my daughter. Worthless and discarded. He turned away from her stunned face and guided Ren to the door. Behind them, Derek was gathering his coat as well, speaking quietly to Piper. You can't take her. Lainey cried out. Piper, you stay right here. Piper looked between her parents, confusion and hurt etched across her young face. Is it true? Is Dad not really my dad? Lainey faltered. It's complicated, honey. Adult stuff. That's not an answer, Piper said, her voice suddenly older than her years. Just tell me the truth. For once. Derek knelt in front of her. Piper, look at me. I am your dad. I've been there for every skin knee, every school play, every nightmare. Nothing changes that, not DNA, not anything. But right now, I think we need some space from all this. Will you come with me to Grandma's house for a few days? Piper glanced at her mother, then back to Derek. She nodded. I want to go with you. Kevin watched as Derek and Piper joined them at the door. The four of them stepped out into the cold December air, leaving behind the warmth of the house and the cold hearts within it. As they reached their cars, Derek turned to Kevin. Thank you, he said simply. It hurts like hell, but thank you. Kevin nodded. Truth is always better than a comfortable lie. Dad, Ren asked as Kevin helped her into the car. Are we still a family? Kevin looked at his daughter, really looked at her, the quiet strength, the resilience that had weathered years of subtle neglect. We are, Ren. A smaller family, maybe, but a real one. As they drove away from the Watterson home, Kevin felt no triumph, no vindication. Just a quiet certainty that he'd done what needed to be done. The road ahead would be difficult, but at least it would be honest. The small house Kevin had purchased after the divorce was nothing like the sprawling suburban home they'd lived in with Ariel. It was older, with character creaky wood floors, a stone fireplace, and a backyard where Ren had planted a garden in the spring. Kevin stood by the kitchen window, watching as Ren built a snowman in the freshly fallen December snow. Her laughter drifted through the glass, a sound that had become more frequent in the past months. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. Despite Ariel's threats and Inez's connections, the evidence Kevin had gathered was irrefutable. The judge had granted him full custody of Ren, with Ariel allowed supervised visitation visits she rarely bothered to make. The financial settlement had been less favorable than Kevin had hoped. Ariel's lawyer had found some technical issues with how Kevin had transferred assets, but he'd kept enough to provide a comfortable life for himself and Ren. The house was smaller, their vacations more modest, but they were happy. Real happiness. Not the performed variety they'd lived with before that a car pulled into the driveway, and Kevin smiled as he recognized Derek's SUV. Piper jumped out first, running to join Ren in the snow. Derek followed more slowly, carrying a bag that undoubtedly contained the board games he'd promised to bring. Their friendship had deepened in the aftermath of that Christmas dinner. Two men rebuilding their lives, supporting each other through divorce proceedings, custody battles, and the inevitable gossip that followed such public implosions. Lainey had fought Derek for custody of Piper, but her case weakened when the paternity issue came to light. In the end, the court awarded primary custody to Derek, with Lainey granted weekend visitation. Unlike Ariel, Lainey did exercise these rights, though the relationship remained strained. The doorbell rang, and Kevin opened it to find Derek stamping snow from his boots. "Cold enough for you?" Derek asked with a grin. "Getting there," Kevin replied, taking the bag of games. "Coffee's fresh if you want some." They moved to the kitchen, where they could watch the girls through the window. Piper was showing Ren how to make a perfect snow angel, both of them laughing as they fell backward into the white powder. "How's she doing?" Derek asked, nodding toward Ren. "Better," Kevin said. "The therapist says she's working through it all. She misses having a mother figure, but not necessarily Ariel specifically." Derek nodded. "Piper's the same. She asks about Lainey, but there's a guardedness there now. Trust broken is hard to rebuild. And how about Lainey? Still seeing the trainer?" Derek shook his head. "That ended when everything came out. She's been trying to convince me we should try again for Piper's sake." Kevin raised an eyebrow. And I'm not interested." Derek shrugged. "Some things can't be fixed once they're broken." They fell into comfortable silence, watching their daughters play. After a while, Derek spoke again. "Heard anything about Ariel lately?" Kevin shook his head. "Not directly. Leora mentioned seeing her at the grocery store. Said she looked rough. Apparently, she lost her real estate license, something about misusing client funds." "Can't say I'm surprised," Derek murmured. "I don't wish her ill," Kevin said honestly. "I just don't want her in our lives anymore. Ren deserves better." Derek nodded. "We all did." Outside, Ren and Piper had finished their snow angels and were now gathering icicles from the edge of the roof. Their faces were flushed with cold and excitement, their laughter carrying through the glass. Kevin felt a peace he hadn't known in years. Not because he had destroyed the Watterson family's facade, not because he had won the divorce or exposed the lies, but because he had protected what mattered: his daughter's well-being, her chance at a life built on truth rather than pretense. "Dad," Ren called through the window. "Come see our snow castle." Kevin smiled and gestured that they be right out. He turned to Derek. "Shall we?" Derek grinned. "Lead the way." As they stepped out into the cold December air, Kevin watched Ren's face light up at his approach. That was the victory, not revenge, but renewal. Not destruction, but rebuilding something better from the ashes of what had been destroyed. When loyalty is mocked and love is betrayed, silence is not an option. But neither is bitterness the answer. The future stretched before them now, honest and hopeful, like the unblemished snow covering the yard, a clean slate, waiting for new memories to be written.